probably the main thing that you're paying for with your Disney Marathon registration is the entertainment. So it's like we have characters out that you can take pictures with. They have like music all throughout. You can hop on rides. People will get snacks and they'll get beers and like they'll bring them across the finish line. So it's like by the time the park's open, it just turns into a party.
Welcome to the Type 2 Fun Podcast, where we inspire people to push their mental and physical limits. Today we have Riley Fickett on, who is undergoing this quest to run 50 marathons across the 50 states. We talk about how her running community keeps bringing her back to the Walt Disney World Marathon Weekend, which is a wildly entertaining event and was so much fun to learn about and understand why she keeps coming back to this one.
My name's Riley. I'm currently located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yeah, this journey has taken a life of its own. I actually got it started back in 2013. I actually was an athlete all growing up. I played soccer all through school, all through high school. And then in high school, I picked up lacrosse. And so I did that all through high school and college. I dabbled a little bit in track and cross country, but that was not my main sport. But once I graduated from college and I didn't have organized sports anymore, I was kind of trying to figure out what am I going to do with my life in terms of how am I going to exercise and stay healthy. And so my thought was, how about I find out how far I can run? And I started training for my first half marathon. I had a couple friends who were also training for a half marathon, so we all did it together. And then, of course, once a half marathon gets achieved, you start wondering what a marathon feels like. So we started training for our first marathon. And my first marathon was the Hartford Marathon in 2013. When I was at that race, I had seen a lot of people wearing 50 states marathon challenge as shirts. And a lot of them had a lot of the states checked off. I'm like, that is really a cool idea. And as somebody who has always wanted to see the 50 states as a bucket list item, I was like, that would be a really interesting way to do it. I started very slowly, doing one marathon a year. And then I realized if I wanted to do 50 states, I'm like, this is going to take me a very long time. And now I'm doing multiple marathons a year, trying to check off as many states as I can without hopefully injuring myself. But it's been a really fun journey. It's brought me a lot of really wonderful people into my life, a lot of really incredible memories. And it's just been a really fantastic part of my life. And I'm so glad that I decided to start running marathons 12 and a half years ago at this point.
So you kind of had the seed planted from almost day one. I didn't even know that was a thing until I started. I pretty much said I haven't had a runner on in a while. I'm about to start my training. I need to find somebody to draw inspiration from. Mm-hmm. And you have a whole hashtag in your bio so there's a ton of people that do this. And mm-hmm. I honestly had no idea. I did want to ask you this, how many marathons have you done total, right? You've done 28 of the 50 states.
Yeah, that's a great question. I've done 32 marathons as of today. So okay. I have only repeated one state, and that state is Florida. And that's because the Disney Marathon is one of my favorite marathons, and I go back almost every year. But yeah, 32 total, 28 states.
And we will talk about that because I'm excited to learn what's so special about that marathon. Yeah. So you decided, or to accomplish this, you have to do multiple marathons a year. Mm-hmm. And I think that's interesting. I've done training for one marathon. I kind of understand how it works. You need at least 3 months time. A lot of people do 5 or 6 months. And the way I understand it is you're pretty much checking in with your body once a week to see mm-hmm. what your new longest run is. And you kind of build that up with some maintenance runs in between, a lot of stretching, some recovery runs. But every Sunday for me, I would do my long run, and I would just inch that mileage up and up and up and up until I got to the day when I was doing my marathon run. And when I did that, I took a month off, and it was unreal how quickly my body, my endurance deteriorated. Mm-hmm. I figured I could hop up and do a half marathon, no issues after a month of rest. And I think I went to do like 6 miles and I ended up walking some of it. And it was just like, it was embarrassing that you put 3 months in and it just poof, gone. So I guess what my initial question is, what does training for multiple marathons a year look like? And I guess like, what do you have to do between those marathon runs to kind of keep that endurance up?
Yeah, that's a really great question. To be honest, I kind of wing it. But obviously, like, you have to, like you said, check in with your body just to make sure you're not pushing yourself too hard. You're not on the verge of injury. Like, you're actually like taking care of yourself, because doing a marathon training block, it's a lot on your body. Like, it's a big toll on your body. The way I have approached it over the years is, I do my build. Usually my build for marathon is about like 16 weeks or so. But if I'm doing multiple marathons, and I will say they usually fall very close together. Like, I'm a fan of training through the summer and running in the fall. I think the fall is the best time for marathons. But usually it's like only like a couple weeks apart from each other. So you do your build, you have your first marathon. You do need to take some time off, because it's like you just went through a lot with the 26.2 race. And then it's just kind of checking in, doing some runs, maybe getting back up to maybe one like low double-digit mileage long run, and then tapering a little bit again, and then going again for 26.2, which sounds crazy. Like, I say it like it's like nothing, but it just that is crazy. For me, as someone too who, like, I don't necessarily care about my times, I just want the finish lines. It's really just kind of just seeing where I'm at. Like, if I'm not feeling good, whether that is like with tight muscles or anything like that, like, I'll take it easier, or I'll do like a lift day instead of a run day, or I'll like do, I'm a fan personally of like the walk run Galloway method on days when I'm feeling not my best. So that kind of helps save my body a little bit too. So maybe the way I do it isn't necessarily like the smart way to do it, but it's worked so far. It's gotten me multiple marathons within a year. It's gotten me multiple marathons within a few months of each other, which has been nice. And I feel grateful that I haven't, knock on wood, gotten any major injuries since. So yeah, I don't know if that like totally kind of covers everything that happens, but I think that's kind of the best way I can describe how I do things. Just check in with your body and just see where you're at, and be mindful if you're not feeling the best.
I know that when I was training, I had a week where I was supposed to do a certain distance. I don't know, it might have been 20. I did hour-based. I did time-based running instead of mileage. And that was really, really nice for me, because I have kids at home. And if I looked at my wife and said, hey, I'm going to go run 20 miles. Well, how long are you going to be for? We got this, and this. It's like, I have no idea how it goes. But with the time-based, it was very nice to say, I'm going to be gone for 3 hours the moment I leave this door. And that worked out really well for us. I would recommend it just for planning purposes, but I know most people do it mileage-based.
I've done the time-based one in the past, and it's been good. Like, it's nice to know. I've tended to lean towards like the mileage base, but like, especially if you're busy or like you have a lot on your plate and you need to know how long it's going to take, like the time base is a great approach, honestly.
I like that. But yeah, I had a 2.5 or 3 hour run or something, and I don't know, my ankles were messed up. So I like kind of took that week off and then came back and made it up the following week once my body healed a little bit more.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about running today, I want to take a minute to share with you my favorite running accessory, the flip belt. This thing's great. It slides right over your waist, and it provides pockets and sleeves for you to store all your stuff. For me, when I'm running on longer runs, I normally have my phone for music, I have headphones, and I stored like hydration packs in these so that I can keep my nutrients up on my long runs and make it through the run. I really like this. It makes it so you can wear any pair of shorts. You don't have to worry about how the pockets fit or anything. and it just makes running more enjoyable. I highly recommend this. It's very affordable, and it holds on everything very tight. I've never had any issues with anything falling out, and it's just very comfortable. If you're interested in checking this out, there's a link in the show notes which has more information.
Yeah. Have you had any major injuries that you've had to deal with in all these trainings?
Luckily, no. And that's
awesome.
like, I feel I'm so grateful for that, like, because I feel like that's not a typical thing. But I also think that has a lot to do with like the fact that I am just paying attention to how I'm feeling and like letting my body kind of dictate like what I'm doing. Obviously, I follow a plan for my marathon builds, but like if I have 15 on the schedule and like I'm just not feeling like good with like if I have tight muscles or if I have like sometimes I will get like like some calf pain or some like Achilles pain, and that's like something I really try to pay attention to because I don't want to have an Achilles injury. That'd be terrible. But like if I need to adjust, if I need to kick my 15 to like the next week and just do a shorter run or even just go for a walk or do like something that isn't going to be high impact, that like being adaptable, I feel like is really important in marathon training, and especially when you're training for multiple marathons within 1 year, because there's going to be times where you're not feeling the best, or even outside of how you're feeling, like physically, like you got other stuff going on in your life. Like you have other commitments that maybe need more attention and you can't dedicate 3 hours to your long run on the weekend. And that's totally fine. You can switch things around. So I think being flexible is really huge when it comes to this.
I like that a lot. That was something that worked with me, just knowing that I didn't have to stick to this, routine as as the scripture or whatever. Being able to move things around depending on your weekends and whatnot, and being able to hop on the elliptical or a stationary bike or just a bike on days that you need to reduce your impact. That was super powerful for me.
Yeah.
So in your, what'd you say, 32 marathons?
32, yeah.
32. Okay. In your 32 marathons, is there any just like lessons learned that have stuck with you throughout the years?
Yeah, I will say when I first started running marathons, I didn't take the training as seriously as I should have. And I've paid for it on multiple occasions. The one marathon in particular that I'm thinking of is I ran the Newport Marathon in Newport, Rhode Island, I think in 2019 or something like that. And that was probably like the worst marathon I've ever run, because I think at that year I was like starting a new job, I was moving. And so like I had a lot going on. And so I wasn't prioritizing training because I had so much else going on in my life. But like I still showed up to the race and I still did it and I finished it, but it was not pretty. And I will always remember that finish line and being like, I'm never going to let myself feel like this ever again. Like, this is terrible. I did not need to like feel as terrible as I did throughout that race. Like, it's because I didn't do the training the way I needed to do it. So, I will say, like, if you ever have a training block where it's like, I know I'm supposed to be training, but I'm not doing it, like, it's very likely you will pay for it on race day. And so I've taken really this attitude now of like, training can be hard to like continuously show up for, but like at the end of the day, you want that race day experience to be like the icing on the cake of everything that you've worked for. And so like now it's like, yeah, training stinks. Like, I don't want to go outside when it's 20 degrees and I have to be outside running 20 miles. Like, that's like the last thing I want to do on a Saturday morning when my bed is so warm and there's coffee in the kitchen. Like, no, I don't want to do that. But even more so, I don't want to feel bad on race day. So like, I'm going to get myself out and I'm going to go do this run that I said that I would do.
That's great. I'm glad you kind of leaned into the discipline aspect of it, because I mean, I remember that there was times where I was up till like 3 a.m. the night before, shouldn't have done that, period. But
Mhm.
I still had to wake up the next day, and while the kids were napping, get my run in. Well,
Mhm.
all my friends are napping because they went
Yeah.
too hard the previous day. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, when you run that race day and you kind of reflect back on all the training, it's a journey. I mean,
Yes.
you want to have that good experience on race day and get a decent time and everything, but reflecting on the whole season is just awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. We always say that the race day is like that is the reward. Like
mhm.
the marathon is the training, and then like race day is like the celebration. So I like to think about it that way.
And you just get these mini celebrations because you probably finish one and then you get to gloat for a second, but then you're immediately
And then
thinking
I'm
of the
like,
next
oh
one.
no, I have another one in 2 seconds. Time to go.
Yeah. How do you remain disciplined throughout the year to just,
Mhm.
keep up that endurance and make it to each one?
Yeah, I feel like at this point it's almost second nature, just because I've just been doing it for a while now. But like you do need to find those things that will keep you stepping out the door. And I think for me, the biggest thing I think is like the friends that I've made through running. I'm really lucky that I've like made a lot of connections through running. Whether that's just like local running friends or people that I've met at races. And I've recently moved to Pittsburgh not too long ago, and there's a few like really fantastic run clubs that I've checked out, and everybody's really, really nice. Like I feel like the running community is like so kind. And so that's been really motivating, especially in the wintertime when it's cold and dark. I don't want to get outside, but I'm like, I want to go make some friends and like chat with people and get my run done. I might as well just go and do that. So that's been really motivating for me. Obviously, like that can't be every single run, but I do try to, do those things, put some things in place for myself to incentivize me getting out, which really, really helps with that discipline for sure. And then on top of that, just like the knowledge of like how much I do enjoy being at races and like having that race day experience, and wanting that to be a positive thing. Like that's what keeps me motivated too.
For me, the big driver was and I made a whole recording on this where I talked about 7 things that I loved about my marathon training, my marathon. But I'd say like the number one reason was just having the me time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and so whatever stresses of the world was going on, I knew that once I got out there, started running, got my heart racing, I would have time to just process things I didn't even know I needed to. Whether it's work stress, house stress, family stress, whatever. You get that little runner's high, and then you can kind of just like mull through all the world's problems.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know if you ever run without music, but sometimes it's nice to run in silence so you can just process everything. That is so real. Like it's such a nice time to just work through whatever's on your mind.
Yep. Normally I'll start with, being music, or I'll have a book or some podcasts I want to get through, and something will pop up in my head. I gotta, mute it or put on some lyricless music, and then the thinking really starts. So
yeah, for sure.
That was the way I tricked myself into getting out every day, every morning when it was snowing, and it worked for me.
Good. Yeah, I feel like everybody has their why on like how to get themselves out the door, and like on the days where you don't want to get out the door, like really leaning into that why is such a big help.
Yeah. So I want to talk about some of your favorite races that you've done, and what are some of the larger states or races that you still have yet to come. You mentioned this Disney marathon. When you look through your page, there's a lot of Disney going on, and I know that you kind of have like a big draw there, and there's a lot of community around it. So we can come back to that one after the fact. But yeah, where have you gone? What have been some of your favorite races, and what's left on your checklist?
Yeah. So actually, for this conversation, I have like my little map.
Oh, that's great.
That I pulled out so I can like remember where I've gone. And in this
You
binder,
should send me a photo of that so I can
I will,
reference
yeah.
that. Okay.
Yeah, I have this binder full of all my like 50 states bibs and then like a little map in the front.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, I've had the opportunity to run like a lot of really fantastic races. Some that like always stick out to me. I have come to find that I really love like the big city marathons that are like really huge, like with lots of participants. Those tend to be like some of my favorite. Like, for example, I did the Los Angeles Marathon in March of 2020. So it was the last race I ran before the world shut down. I was actually very surprised that they still had it because it was, I think, like March 8th or something like that. So it's like very close to like where everything stopped. But that was a really cool race. It took you like all through a bunch of the neighborhoods of Los Angeles and brought you right down to Santa Monica. So you like end at the ocean. Crowds were incredible. So fun. That one always sticks out to me as one that I really like. And then I've done a couple of the American World Marathon majors. So I did Chicago Marathon and I did the Boston Marathon. The Chicago Marathon was probably the best like crowd experience I've ever had. The way that course is set up, it like kind of doubles back on itself a few different times. And so like if you have somebody coming to cheer for you, like they can see you like a lot. And then they're just like crowds the entire way. And it's just like so enthusiastic. So that was probably like, that's probably one of like maybe the top 3 of the marathons that I've done so far. And then Boston Marathon was my top dream race. Even before I started running marathons, because I grew up in New England, like I always said, like growing up, like I'm going to run the Boston Marathon one day. And it actually became a reality for me in 2023. It's like if you run marathons, like people strive to get to Boston one way or another, whether that's qualifying or running for charity or what have you. I ran for charity, which was another fantastic experience. But again, it's like those were my like kind of backyard streets. I trained on those streets on that course all the time. And so like being able to actually run the race itself was really, really special. So, but yeah, there's been a lot that like looking at my map, I'm like, oh, this one was great. This one was great. This one was great. There weren't too many that I've had that have been like bad. So I feel like marathon race organizers know what they're doing to make their runners have a really memorable experience. So
especially if you're going to like the big cities for it, I would have to imagine they all have their shit put together and great experience. Earlier you said that you're using this as a means to see all the states, and I say this in almost every episode, I feel like, but it's wild how many people latch onto a hobby, obsess over it, and use that as like a means to see the world. People will go over to Europe or the UK or Asia to do, bike packing or different biking events, or canoeing. Like there's people that travel the world quite a bit to kind of participate in their sport. And I'm sure once you aren't bored of this at State 50, you'll take it overseas and start seeing other stuff. The 7 continents, that'd be a good one.
That'd be good.
Yeah. My buddy, the guy who kind of coaches me, you mentioned the Abbott World Marathons. His goal is to do all 6 of those. So
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, he's done 4.
Oh, wow.
And the other 2 are lottery based. So he just like puts in a lottery every year, and one day he'll get the draw, and that'll be the day he flies out to, I don't remember which ones he's missing, Japan or I don't remember.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and I can link that episode. What's that?
I was gonna say those races are really well done. So that's great that he's done 4 so far. Yeah.
It was cool learning about it, and I can link that video here for anybody who wants to check it out. But that's cool. Flash that map up one more time.
Here we are. Oop, can you see? I don't know where it is.
I'm going to try to figure out how to only focus on you.
There it goes.
Yeah,
so I got a lot of the West I still need to get done, but living in the Northeast, you can tell.
Oh, that's great. I love it. You refrained from mentioning the Disney Marathon, so we'll make this twofold. I want to hear about what makes that event unique. And I know you've done some like weird challenges there that are like, I don't even know. They sound so freaking hard. But like, I also want to understand what that community means to you and why you've kind of anchored to this marathon. So take that wherever you want.
Sure. I guess I'll start by talking about the challenges because I find that's like always a very intriguing thing. And it's like how I got intrigued. I'm like, you can run at Disney World? That's so crazy. And then not only that, you can do these crazy challenges. But so Disney World has, I think, like 4 different race weekends, but they have one marathon race weekend. It happens in January. And they have 2 different challenges there. One is called the Goofy Challenge, which is a half marathon on Saturday and a full marathon on Sunday, which is crazy in itself, but not the hardest thing you can do at marathon weekend. The hardest challenge is called the Dopey Challenge, which is 5K Thursday, 10K Friday, half marathon Saturday, full marathon Sunday. So that's 4 races. On top of all of this, the races start at like 5 in-the-morning. So you have to get up very early for 4 days in a row. But the perk of, these challenges is you get to, run through the parks at Disney World. They have really fantastic entertainment all throughout the course. That's basically like what you're signing up for, is to be entertained. They have characters out. But on top of all that, yeah, sorry?
Distracted.
Yeah, distracted. But on top of all that, like the races themselves are USA track and field certified. So they're legit races. People can go to the marathon and Boston qualify on them. There's like a field of very, very competitive runners that go to the Disney Marathon to run that race. It is very flat. So if you're looking for a flat marathon that is entertaining, go to the Disney Marathon. But yeah, it's been, I started going to this race in 2022, like when it first came back after the pandemic. And I've gone back to this weekend ever since. So I was just there a few weeks ago, doing the Goofy Challenge. I've done the Goofy Challenge 3 times now, and I did the Dopey Challenge 1 time. And the Dopey Challenge was very hard, so I was happy to go back to only doing the half and the full, which sounds crazy. But yeah, it's a really special weekend. And I have made some really fantastic friends through the Run Disney community specifically. I say all the time that marathon weekend feels like a friend reunion every year because a lot of the same people participate in these races every single year. So not only do I get to, go run these really fun races through the parks, but I get to like see my people that are from all over the place. Like I've made friends who, live in Florida, they live in Ohio, they live like in Germany, they live in the UK, and then like everybody comes down to Disney World to run these races, and you just meet each other, and you're all doing this really hard thing together. You're all motivating each other through training. It's just really special to have that kind of community and to be able to get to see them every year, which has been really fantastic.
Did you meet most of these people through your social account, or was it something that you got to hang out with everybody who did it after the fact?
Yeah, it's a mixture of both.
Okay.
I will say the Run Disney community is like very active on social media. I would say I've met a lot of folks through social media who I've then met in person at the races. I have a couple of friends who like I would just be like in the start corrals or somewhere along the course, and they like recognized me from social media, and like we've connected. Wow. And now we're like really good friends because everybody's like so friendly and like they want to be friends with each other, and like like I was kind of saying, we motivate each other via social media as we're all going through this like really tough training together. And so like to finally see each other at race weekend is always so special. And like I haven't gone to marathon weekend and not left with like a new friend, which has been so great. And another big motivator to continue coming back to that one in particular.
I always say there's so much. I always find that there's so much community when you're in these like niche sports, and I would say my marathon was not so much that. I mean, my family came and watched me, and they were the ones greeting me at the finish line. But after the fact, it was a pretty small marathon. After the fact, you didn't have a celebration or a town to go through or bars to hop around. We also had our kids, so we were like rushing to get them back for naps and get them fed and stuff like that. So that kind of changed it a little bit. But yeah, I would imagine if you find an event that is that entertaining that people keep coming back to, it would be very easy to latch on. And you probably got to hang out in the park, even though you didn't want to walk after the fact. Kind of just glow with everybody else who did just at the event.
Yeah, it's always funny. Like usually people will stick around after the marathon, like the next day, to go to the parks, and you can tell who ran the marathon the day before. Everybody is waddling around. It is so funny. But yeah, like I would say like when I first started doing races and marathons, like it was maybe less of my experience that I would like be connecting with people so often. But like the more I did it, like the more I was able to connect with others. And I feel like I've met people all over the place now, which has been so great. And like a major reason why like I continue coming back to running races and staying motivated to like do the 50 states and everything like that.
It's very extreme. So if you find people that are also a little
crazy together.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. I love that you're sharing that, and I bet you probably run into people at other states too that just decide to kind of latch on, or you just find out that people are doing the other states. I mean, is that common?
Yeah, for sure. It's actually very common because like I will be at these races and like you get chatting with people, like whether it's like in the start corrals or like if you're trying to get through a couple miles with like a pace group or something, you just talk to people and see what they're doing. And like I have met a lot of people who are doing the 50 states. I actually do a little bit of pacing for like half marathons. And there was one I did a couple months ago, and I had 2 people in my pace group who have already done the 50 states and are working on their second round of them. I was like, how are there 2 of you who have already completed the 50 states? And they just like, they love it. That's like what their life's passion is. And I was like, wow, I want to be when I grow up. That's great. So it's fairly common. And it's really cool to see like how many people are actually like using this as motivation to travel, to stay healthy, that kind of stuff.
I didn't even think about that because my marathon was small. I went to it because it was convenient around the time I wanted to do it and the location we lived at. And it got more lonely as the race went on because everybody spread out. All the half marathoners finished, and I was just like running by myself. But yeah, if you're at a big enough marathon, you're going to be running with 10 different people doing the same pace with you, and I'm sure you guys just went back and forth because your lungs are most likely fine. It's just your body is slowing you down. Yeah, and I know I've had like the deepest conversations with some of my running friends during long runs because what else are you gonna do? You can't.
Exactly. It's a true like deep bonding experience, like going through a long run with somebody.
Yeah.
Like get each other through like the pain cave to like motivate you to get through the miles that you need to get to. It's great.
I like that. That's more inspiration to get and do these city runs that you're mentioning.
Yeah. So fun. I mean, I like small town races too. I think specifically for full marathons, it's like the more people you can have to like lift you up, whether it's crowd or just like runners around you, like the better the experience is, in my opinion.
What probably got me is it was a armed services marathon, and so they had all the military or veterans or whatever volunteer for it, and so it's just a bunch of like bros handing out like bananas and pouches and water, and so every time you run through every mile you run through a stop, and they're just there like hyping you up, take my Gatorade, whatever. So I at least had support from the that group, and that made up for the lack of people.
Love it.
Yeah, so you did gloss over this because you said this is the pre-call, and I just think this is totally bonkers, but you said that you can actually hop on rides at the Disney.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot. But yeah, so the Disney Marathon, very, very entertaining. I think like probably the main thing that you're paying for with your Disney Marathon registration is the entertainment. So it's like you're running through the parks, you have characters out that you can take pictures with. They have like music all throughout. But the marathon in particular, you can hop on rides in the park. And a lot of people do this. The reason being that the marathon obviously goes on so long that by the time you're getting to some of these parks, the parks are open for like regular guests. And so like they're running rides for folks. So there's one ride in particular, Expedition Everest, which is a roller coaster in Animal Kingdom, that is in like the perfect spot for this kind of situation. So it's usually around mile 16 or 17 of the marathon. And at that point, like most runners who are running through Animal Kingdom at that point, like the park is open, so the roller coaster's running. So you will see a lot of people with bibs on, hopping in line, confusing the rest of the guests, like what's going on. And it is like the coolest experience because it's like, I'm not supposed to be doing this right now, but I'm doing it. So I have done that for the last 3 years at the Disney Marathon. It is like so awesome. I will say that it is at risk of like, there is a time cutoff for this marathon. So like, if you hop out of line to go ride this ride and like maybe it breaks down and you will get swept off the course and you won't be able to finish. But haven't had that happen to me yet, so that's good.
Oh, that would be epically terrible.
Yeah, but people do like, I just do the one ride, but people try to do as many rides as possible during the Disney Marathon. I've seen people like, because the park's open, the food stands are open, so people will get snacks and they'll get beers and like they'll bring them across the finish line. So it's like by the time the park's open, it just turns into a party pretty much, and you're still running a marathon. But it's a great time.
And I have to imagine most people dress up, so you get entertainment from them, you get entertainment from the theme park. And do they do anything special for the runners, or is it just running through the characters and everything?
Yeah. So it's all that. You get like your normal race stuff, but they make it really special. At the finish line, you get medals like you do at a lot of marathons. But at the Disney Marathon, they do give you like finisher ears. So okay. I have like a little shelf of like Mickey ears that say marathon finisher on them, which is really cute. And all of the, employees of the parks are out cheering and everything like that. So it's just a really nice day. It's always so positive. So I think that's another reason why it just keeps bringing me back. It's just all happy.
I dig that. Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing that with me. I had no idea. And,
it's a really unique experience, and I definitely recommend doing it at least one time.
Is there any other? What was that?
And riding the roller coaster.
Is there any other challenges or like, I don't know, unique races that you've done? Have you even approached the ultra zone? I don't know. I'm kind of curious what other crazy things you've done aside from the Goofy and Dobie challenge.
Yeah. So haven't dipped my toe into ultras yet. I'm like, I need to focus on the 50 states first, and then maybe we'll explore this option. But I have done a back-to-back marathon weekend before, which was marathon Saturday, marathon Sunday. I've only done it one time. I'd be open to doing it again. But it was called the I-35 Challenge. And this is something that happens every fall, I'm pretty sure. But it's the Kansas City Marathon in Missouri on Saturday, and then the Des Moines Marathon in Iowa on Sunday. They're about 3 hours apart, so it's drivable. So I think I did this. When did I have my date right here? Yeah, 2021. So like it was one of the first races back after COVID, and during the pandemic, obviously a lot of races were canceled. I had a lot of marathon plans for 2020 that like I had to defer. And so 2021, I did a lot. In 2022, I did a lot of marathons to kind of make up for everything that had been canceled. And so I decided to do the I-35 challenge to knock out 2 states in one trip. And yeah, the training for that, I actually did train on an ultra marathon training plan. I trained on a 50 miler training plan, or maybe 50K, but I can't remember. One of those, because yeah, you're running 52 miles within 2 days. And so I was like, I need to make sure that I can handle that volume of mileage. So I didn't just train on a regular marathon training plan. And so that training block involved a lot of back-to-back weekend runs. So like I would do 20 on Saturday, 21 on Sunday. So it was brutal, and it was through the summer. But it was a really cool experience, and it was really cool to see that my body could handle that. And I think that could be a peek into like if I ever wanted to go the ultra route, that like it could be a possibility. But it was really neat to be able to do 2 marathons in one weekend, knock out 2 states in one weekend. And because it's like a designated challenge, they also like gave folks who are participating in that challenge like an additional medal and like an additional recognition for like completing the challenge that weekend. So that was kind of cool too.
I've not done any ultras. I am cynically drawn to them, and I think as I learn more about it, it's cool because they're always unique in some way. Like there's one called the Ode to Laws Marathon. I think they have them all around the world, but you run 4-point-something miles every hour on the hour. And the reason they do that is because if you do it for 24 hours, you actually add up to 100 miles.
Whoa.
And then people do this where they go for 3 or 4 days straight, just not like barely sleeping, just barely getting enough nutrients in to keep going. And yeah, they're just like running through the night, running through the morning.
Yeah. Honestly, ultra runners are so impressive to me. Like they are a different breed of human, I swear. So amazing what they can do.
Yeah, there's a lot of goofy ones. They have them at Death Valley. They have them in like winter. It's just, I don't know, just learning about the silly things people are doing to kind of push
it's great.
It's nuts. Yeah, I mean, with that, like, so what is in the docket? What states are in the docket for this year? And when do you think you're going to accomplish all 50 states?
Yeah. So to answer that question first, I've always said that like this is a life goal. So like no pressure. I had it in my head to maybe try to shoot to finish it before I turn 40. I'm 34 currently. But I'm like, maybe it's expensive to travel so much. So like maybe not that. But I went into this, like started doing this goal always saying like this is a life goal. Like I want to really enjoy it. I like the whole point of this is to like see the country and do it in a challenging way, and like however long that takes me, then I'm happy with that. And so that's kind of my attitude towards when it might be done. But maybe before I'm 50 or something like that. That'd be great. 50th state on my 50th birthday. That'd be great. But yeah, in terms of what's coming up this year, so I'm opting to take some time off from training for marathons for spring, at least, just because I don't love training through the winter. So we're not doing that. Maybe next year we'll train through the winter again. So I'm aiming for 3 in the fall. I'm looking at the Duke City Marathon in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Specifically, I have friends out there that I've already promised, like last year. I'm like, I'm not coming out this year, but 2025 I'll come to New Mexico, and I've already promised them. So I'm like, I'm on my way. So that'll be in October. And then I'm looking at the Every Women's Marathon in Savannah, Georgia in November. That's a newer marathon. I think they just had their inaugural race last year and looked really fantastic. So I'm hoping to get down there in November. And then also in November, I'm looking at the Marshall University Marathon in West Virginia, because now that I'm in Pittsburgh, I'm very close to West Virginia, so I can get myself down there. So local-ish race to me. But yeah, those are the main ones I'm looking at. I've already done New York State, but I always put my name in the lottery for the New York City Marathon, and I get rejected every year, but we'll see if we do that one too. But yeah, I am looking forward to the fall. I think fall is the best time for marathons, so I think I'm going to try to do at least 3 this year and see what happens.
I want to take a moment to kind of reflect on that life goal. I think that is so cool. I'm 33. I think way too often about what's the goal? Where do you want to be? Do you want to work yourself to death and die one day and have nothing to show for it? And then I also think about myself. I finished that marathon. That was a major feat, but there was nothing stopping me from stopping there and then going and eating unhealthy, drinking too much, getting fat and unhealthy again. So a big goal for me is I always want to be skinny and strong enough to play with my kids.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my moral compass with a lot of stuff. So if I keep in shape, I can keep up with my kids. I can be a good dad. Maybe I can just focus on my family, my unit, instead of giving all my time away to work or these bad habits.
Right.
So I think that's so cool. I mean, that'll take you to, like you said, 50 at least. And then, then you'll probably start traveling the world, doing the stuff or something.
Yeah.
But I like that. Not having a official finish line is a massive motivation to keep you going.
Yeah. Yeah. I do have it in my head. I'm like, I would love to finish in Hawaii. I feel like that would be the perfect place to finish this challenge. But I guess we'll just kind of see how everything unfolds.
Finish in Hawaii and then enjoy it for a week.
Vacation afterwards.
Yeah. And then stop. Then get back.
Never run again.
Well, this is good. I always try to leave time at the end of the episode to tell any stories. So is there any of the type 2 fun stories that come to mind that make you laugh, or epic fails that you want to cheer me up with?
Oh man. I think some of the best stories that I take away from this experience are the stories of connection with other people. And one that just occurred at my last state, which was Wisconsin. I just did the Milwaukee Lakefront Marathon in October. But there was a moment, mile 25 of this race, so just painfully close to the finish line. But I got a tap on my shoulder from this other runner who tapped me on my shoulder and asked me, do you want to run this last mile together? And I was like, yeah, of course, I would love to do that. And I chatted with her and came to find out this was her first ever marathon, and she was about to finish her first ever marathon. And I was so happy for her. Got to know her a little better. Her husband and her daughter were going to be there at the finish line. So it was just really really to share that with her. We were both so dead at that point because it's mile 25 of a marathon, and we could hear the finish line festival in the distance, and you can kind of see where the crowd is just hanging out by the finish line, and you're just it's so far. but like we got to connect in that moment and really motivate each other to get across the finish line. And I think for me personally, like somebody who has done a lot of these at this point and kind of like knows what to expect, I think it's always like for me so important to like hype up the people who are doing this for the first time and like have worked so hard and like making sure that they're feeling celebrated for accomplishing this really fantastic thing. So that was like my moment to do that for her. And it was really fantastic to connect with her. And she like found me on social media afterwards and we got to like say hi and like follow each other. And so that was really, really special. So any story that has that moment of connection is always kind of my favorite. And that's definitely like one of the most recent ones that I had.
I love that.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a better way to end this. I'm glad you came on. You definitely shared some stuff with me and some tips that I'll be using on my next run. If anybody got any value out of this, please comment, hit subscribe. I'll link to the 2 other episodes where I reflected on my marathon and my buddy who is trying to do the 6 Abbott World Marathons. With that, is there any closing thoughts or shout outs that you want to give? And can you tell the listeners where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. My tag is rmthicfac. I post all of my running stuff over there, so definitely come and join me. But yeah, I think if you ever have like an inkling to do a marathon, just know you can do it. I am in full like belief that anybody can run a marathon. It is a challenge for sure, but it is an achievable challenge. So if you ever had a thought to maybe go for it, I would encourage you to do so.
I second that. I really do. It might take you some effort to get through those first miles. You might just start with a half or something, but yeah, I think anyone can do it if they're disciplined enough. Well, Riley, thank you for coming on. I hope you had a good time. I know I did.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
Thank you for listening to the Type 2 Fun podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a follow and feel free to reach out to say hello, give feedback, or share your Type 2 Fun story.